on its new home on York's only local station.
Guess who's back? Back again.
This is the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK.
I'm back.
Now, broadcasting live from WOYK's downtown York studios inside Wellspan Park, here's Gary Sutton.
And welcome in to our second hour here on a Thursday morning. It is February the 6th, 2025, 7:05 here on Brooks Robinson Plaza, where it's still just 30 degrees. Still need 2 more to get up to freezing and a few more to get beyond that. Be careful out there. The ice is rough.
I recommend the shuffle. Okay,
Yes.
do not step. Shuffle your feet.
Yeah, shuffle your feet carefully. Pretend you're a little older and you have to be a little more careful because you do. And if you are a little older, be very careful, okay? Because it's really, really rough out there. If you're coming up to an intersection with your car, give yourself an extra 30 feet or so because you're going to slide a little bit. Hats off to all the people who are doing the work out there on the roads this morning, from the townships to the boroughs to the city to PennDOT. You guys are knocking it out of the park. You really are. Speaking of the park, we're right here at Wellspan Park. They didn't put it down here this morning, though, by the way. You and I shuffled right over to our door.
Yeah, I was worried that if there was going to be like a couple inches of snow, they were going to end up plowing us in. Yeah. So I'm lucky that's...
I was thinking about, with baseball season coming down the line, I was thinking about working on my sliding today a little bit because he could do that.
There you go. I watched another episode, or at least part of an episode of Ken Burns' baseball, and just so many rich stories, like Civil War. And they did a little piece on Roberto Clemente that I saw last night and how he was really good at sliding.
Oh, he was unbelievable.
That was his thing. But let's talk before we get to Aaron. How about food holidays today?
Go ahead.
It is International Frozen Yogurt Day.
Ooh, okay.
I could eat frozen yogurt.
I like frozen yogurt.
If ice cream's not available.
What was the one? It was about Kemp's. Was there one called Kemp's frozen yogurt for a long time?
I think that's possible. Yeah. I don't know that I ever bought it. I think it was usually.
I tried it.
You don't have any ice cream? Well, I can have frozen yogurt.
Yeah, okay.
The other thing, though, the more
put that in perspective, anyway.
Yes, exactly. More important food holiday. It is Canadian Maple Syrup Day.
Ooh, okay, all right.
I like maple syrup.
I do too.
What about though putting it in? Using it in unorthodox methods, like using it in cooking other than pancakes.
No.
How about maybe, what I saw recently, you know what an old-fashioned is? The drink, the mixed drink?
Yes.
Putting a little bit of that either on the edge of the glass so that when you go to sip, you smell
I guess that'd be
the maple syrup and then you taste. Although it's giving it a little bit different edge.
The difference there is if I want to smell maple syrup, I go open up the jar and I smell the maple syrup and put it back down again.
Well, it's called serendipity. You're not expecting it, yet there it is, but it's not unpleasant. It's not like you're smelling something bad. It's just enhancing what your expectations already.
The Mackenzian rules in effect, once again, ladies and gentlemen, as he explains, as no one else can, how you can get about 15 thoughts all at one time and actually make them sound like you make some sense. Anyway, Gary Sutton back with you, and we welcome in this morning Aaron Anderson, who is the CEO of Logos Academy right here in York, very interested in education, obviously, and he's also the lead pastor at Living Word Church, and he's here with us this morning on WOYK. Good morning, Aaron. How are you?
Hey, great, Gary. How are you?
I'm doing well. Each year, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, known as the NAEP, comes up with the Nation's Report Card. And obviously, you're a guy that's interested in what the Nation's Report Card looks like here in 2024, and not only the nation, but also maybe in Pennsylvania. But this report card, if it was a pass-fail, I think we might have failed on this one. Tell us a little bit about what you found out in this one.
Yeah, they do these, Gary, and release these. I think it's actually every 2 years. And they look at, what they'll do is benchmark and look at fourth graders, eighth graders. They look at a variety of subjects. The items that are most concerning, specifically as you look at reading scores, national reading scores, I think the one that really shocked me and that probably should have us on high alert is that a third of the nation's students are reading below basic levels.
Wow.
One third. And less than a third are reading at proficient levels, which means you've got 2/3 of the nation's students are reading below any proficient levels. and a full third of them. I mean, that is just shocking to me to think that a third of kids, and those numbers have gone up since COVID. We're not seeing returns back to any kind of pre-COVID levels.
Yeah, I saw one of the things they made in the summary there was that the negative impact of the pandemic on student learning is still evident in the 2024 results, which you've talked about a number of times since the COVID. So let's dig down on this a little bit, a couple of levels. Where do you blame this? I mean, obviously people are going to go to social media right away and say that, but in social media you got to read. I mean, you do have to read stuff, don't you? And maybe not to the you're not reading a novel, or you're not reading maybe a textbook or something like that, but you do have to read stuff, don't you?
Yeah, and there are skills that you think of. If you break down the test and you begin to look at, like, what are they assessing?
Right.
It's simple things like fourth graders. Can fourth graders sequence what happened in a story? Can they put order of events together?
Okay.
As you get to more proficient levels, can you offer an opinion about that is based on some fact in the particular book? So I do think, there's probably a whole host of things. I don't think there's any way to get around a couple of things. One is I do think just screen time in general, of sitting in nonverbal ways, just taking in video after video or various things like that, not talking, not processing with other human beings, and then just the skills the brain acquires by being able to sit for periods of time and read 10 pages.
Right. The idea that you've got 6 kids at home that you've raised and you are raising. What did you do with them? I mean, I'm assuming your kids all probably read pretty well and all that, but what did you and your wife do with your kids?
Well, that's an interesting thing, because it's not as though we did not allow any screen time. I will say that we limited screen time specifically, and trust me, Gary, we were better at it in certain periods of our lives than others.
Right.
In general, during the school week, if it was school night, we were saying no screen time. Yeah, there's been times we'll limit it. I think even with our current middle school boys, we'll limit that amount of screen time. And then we're always asking and requiring, not only that they do their homework, but actually that they're learning to read something for leisure reasons, just simply
right.
for pleasure, to learn to read. So I would say, as a parent, we had in mind cultivating a love of reading and a love of learning.
Yeah, I remember my mom and dad, we were growing up, and they would give us books, and we read books. I mean, I was insatiable. I loved reading books all the time, and I still like to read a lot of articles now. I probably read 37, 40 articles a day, and I speed read a lot of them. But the thing I lament is I can't do exactly what you said, is read more books that I want to sit down. I love David Baldacci novels, for example. I love different things like that. I love history kind of things. I read an autobiography of Ben Franklin last year. I like that kind of stuff. But, for kids, it seems like, and again, this is not for every child, but the perception is that it's kind of a lost art.
Yeah, but I don't think it has to be a permanently lost art. I do think it's just a function of spending a little bit of time, every day teaching a kid and requiring kids to sit down and do this. I was just having a conversation yesterday with a friend who, for whatever reason, had to discipline their kid, and they took their phone away, and now this child sitting there on the sofa reading a book and finding, oh, I really enjoy this. I enjoy the idea that I can sit and learn something. And I think part of this is parents just being parents and saying, okay, I do have some control, especially over younger kids. As kids get to be teenagers, of course it gets to be more complicated. I still think parents have authority and control. And there's ways to incentivize it. I mean, I can remember taking our kids into bookshops, and letting them browse and look at books and giving them recommendations, and they get excited about buying something.
So it's not a priority anymore for our society at large, is what you're saying. That that used to be a big part: reading, writing, arithmetic. Remember those old days? Now the computer's in there somewhere, but the idea that reading needs to be done first and foremost, that you need to be able to speak the language, read the language, understand the language, understand what's going on. I think that's really important, right?
Yeah, and I of course, and I think one of the challenges, in the modern era, I would say, is that it's easy now, especially, and you can even hear adults say this. well, why would I bother learning something? I can just quickly go.
Right.
I can quickly go plug it in to Google and search for it. And with the dawn of AI, and man, I'll tell you, with some of the new technologies, like even I've been messing around with DeepSeek and things like that. Yeah, the ability that you can just go in and plug something in and it will do it for you. Yeah, I was talking to another friend about their student just going to do that, and they said, well, I don't really need to do that. I can just go plug that into ChatGPT and it'll do it for me. But at some level, if you don't have the ability to read, you don't have the ability to verbalize and communicate effectively, that is when humans begin to become replaceable.
And that's what I was going to say is you're talking about 4th and 8th grade right here and the losses that we're having there and then other years of school. That carries on out. And then you find yourself getting out and being an adult. And as you said, do you have the ability, for example, to converse? Do you have the ability to reason? Do you have the ability to listen? Do you have the ability to synthesize a conversation to another level? You get all that, and it just, it's the knee bone's connected to the ankle bone's connected to the foot bone. It just keeps on going like that because everything is interconnected, right?
Yeah, and I think, Gary, for us, as freedom-loving people, the things that we should be concerned about is when humans lose the ability to reason, to logic, to articulate ideas, that is, you become very much at risk of being taken captive. Not only to foolish thinking or to bad, illogical thinking, but at some point you can begin to give your freedom over to people who actually have those capabilities and who are persuasive and can reason. And that's a dangerous prospect.
Well, and again, when politics has invaded just about every part of our lives, there's where you really see it. Like the lemmings going over the cliff, you maybe have one person that says something and everybody else follows the memo, as opposed to thinking and reasoning through it and thinking about what do I believe? What am I passionate about? What seems right and wrong to me? And therein, and it all starts back when we started to learn how to read, we learn how to talk, we learn how to understand, and then it just gets worse, and it becomes kind of an epidemic of unreasonableness as we get a little bit older and politics seeps into every part of our lives, right? Final thoughts.
Yeah. So, and that I think that's a topic for another day. The reality that politics has become all things, but it's one of the things I'd say as CEO of Logos Academy. We are a classical school committed to students learning solid grammar, to learning the ability to think logically and to process things like fallacy, to be able to communicate effectively. That's the kind of the rhetoric phase of school. But all those things come together because we think that's the cultivation of a mind, that's the cultivation of a human being to be able to reason and think in this world.
I stopped by one of your classes the other week. I was a social studies class because I was a social studies teacher for about 25 years, and I was really impressed with the way the teacher was going on and the kinds of questions that were being asked. It's really good to see. So there are good things going on. But, we talk on our show all the time about conversation and examination, not indoctrination. That's really what we're all about here. And it requires that you have the ability to read, to reason, to think, to talk, to synthesize to another level. And I think when you can do all that, maybe that report card will be a little bit better in the future. But we have to get our schools going in that direction and making it a priority once again.
Absolutely. And we can do that.
I think we can. Hopeful.
Yes, we can.
Aaron, always good talking to you. We'll look forward to doing it next week. In the meantime, be well, my friend. Okay? Thank you.
Hey, be well. Thanks, Gary.
Aaron Anderson, CEO of Logos Academy, this morning with the nation's report card. It's not real good at the moment. Let's see what we can all do about making it better. Let's get that priority to be speaking, reading, reasoning, and talking with each other with civility as well. How about that one? We'll take a break. We'll come right back with more. I may have some news you might have missed next here on the Gary Sutton Show on WOYK. You can text us at 833-478-4729. It is 7:18 on a Thursday morning.